Now, our next speaker is the chairman of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. Congressman Bill Shuster is chair of the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee, where he has served since he came into Congress in 2001. Chairing one of the largest committees in Congress, this committee has jurisdiction over all modes of transportation: aviation, maritime, waterborne transportation, roads, mass transit, and of course, railroads. In addition to his expanded role on transportation policy, he continues to be an active voice in support of our armed forces and a recognized leader on national security matters. He serves on the House Armed Services Committee, which provides valuable insight into the global war on terror and how our military should transform to meeting these emerging threats. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Congressman Bill Shuster.
Thank you very much. It's really great to be here with you today. I just had a brief meeting in the back there with some county commissioners from Pennsylvania, and it's meeting with you folks. Thank you, Pennsylvanians. Meeting with you folks really is eye-opening. It should be eye-opening for all members of Congress. We were talking about a member of Congress that the counties were pressuring him to do some different things, and they said, well, he didn't like the pressure. And I said, well, you guys have got the pressure. You guys have got to make your budgets balance. You got to make sure the roads are passable in the winter. I mean, you guys live under a tremendous amount of pressure. So I really appreciate what you do. Getting here today, though, I was under some pressure. I was in traffic for 45 minutes, and when you travel across Washington, D.C., it's the most congested city in the United States. So you see firsthand the problems here in Washington, but back home they're even bigger, I believe, in many of our states and our counties. And as I come to a group like this, or I come to any group now, and I talk about transportation, we are all in the transportation business, every American, because going to the refrigerator to get that milk out, it came through the transportation system, and if it didn't operate efficiently, the milk would cost more money, or we wouldn't have it. So again, we are all in the transportation business. We all benefit by an efficient system, and I know that you guys and gals that run these counties, 45% of the public roads are under your watch. You're responsible for, and almost 40% of the bridges you folks have to deal with, and we know. I should say, we need to. More of us in Washington need to know how difficult it is out there to find the funds to do what you need to do, and we in Washington should be figuring out ways to help. And the Committee on Transportation Infrastructure, and I know my counterparts in the Senate, we all have a very, very full agenda. Obviously, a lot of things on the issue, but many issues. But when it comes to transportation and infrastructure, our plate is going to be very full this year. We are going to do probably several different bills. The first and probably the most important thing we do is a surface transportation bill. I know all of you in here care about that. But all the way down the list of transportation, an FAA reauthorization, a passenger rail bill, a pipeline safety reauthorization bill, emergency management reform to FEMA, which I know you folks have to deal with, GSA reform, and we're making another attempt. We want to do another water resources bill this year. And along the way, we're fighting this fight with the President and the EPA about waters of the United States, which if the EPA is allowed to do what it's going to do, it's going to cost you folks, it's going to cost you a lot of money, it's going to cost jobs, it's going to have economic impacts to the ag industry, to the developers, to anybody that builds anything. So this is something that we are fighting very, very hard on. And in fact, your first Vice President, Sally Clark of El Paso County, Colorado, not Texas, Sally, she testified before a joint hearing. The House and the Senate came together to hear the problem. So we thank you, Sally, so much for giving us real-world experience on what you folks face out there. As I said, infrastructure is so important to us, and right now, the biggest challenge we face is how do we pay for a surface transportation bill? And it seems that the odds-on favorite, I know that talking to some of you, and you've heard some from senators and vice president and others, it appears that the repatriation is the #1 odds-on favorite, however you want to classified as to be where we find these dollars to make sure that the trust fund is filled and that we get a long-term bill. The last bill we did was a 2-year bill, and that's because that's all the money we had. So we are trying to figure out the solutions to have a 5- or 6-year bill, and of course that is going to be driven by the dollars. And as I said, we're working hard on it, working with the Ways and Means Committee in the House. The Senate Finance Committee does have to do their work in the Senate. And every day that passes, though, makes it more and more difficult to hit that end of May timeline that we've put it for ourselves. But we are working diligently on it. And again, this bill has to be driven by, it has to be a long-term bill. We need it to be fiscally responsible. We need to make sure that Washington gets out of your way and allows you to get those projects done faster. And I think all across this country, there's examples of where when you use your own dollars, the county dollars or state dollars, and don't have any federal dollars, you can get these projects done much quicker and at less cost. And so this bill has to continue to focus, as MAP 21 did, on reforms and, as I said, getting out of the way for you folks to be able to build those bridges and roads quicker, because we all know time is money. The longer it takes, that bill usually goes up. And as I said, that's going to be the focus of the bill. Those are the key points as we move through the process. And from my standpoint, what I need from you is what you have been doing, but I need you to even do it more, is go back home and meet with your members of the House and the members of the Senate, and take them on a tour of the roads and the bridges so that they can see firsthand. And I got to tell you, it's some of my colleagues on my side of the aisle, I think they need more education than others. My colleagues on the other side of the aisle, sometimes when there's a pot of money, they want to spend it in 7 or 8 different new ways. I think we have to have it focused on where the money needs to be spent, and that's on the critical infrastructure, highways, bridges. But again, you folks can be immensely helpful to me and to my colleagues on the committee by making sure that our elected officials that come to Washington see those bridges and those roads and that infrastructure that needs to have money. One of the messages I'd encourage you to take to, especially those on my side of the aisle, that the role of government, one of the key roles of government is to be involved in infrastructure. And it goes right back to the founding of this country. There was a transportation issue that really was the breaking point for the Articles of Confederation. Maryland and Virginia couldn't come up with a treaty to navigate the Potomac River to go to western Pennsylvania and into the Ohio Territory. And when they couldn't come up with that treaty, they realized if they didn't have a federal government that could be part of that to make sure this country is connected, we were never going to be a nation. So when they went back and they drew up their Constitution, we know today, Article 1, Section 8 talks about national or common defense, interstate commerce, and establishing post roads. And from the very beginning, management of the waterways and the ports, and again, commerce, getting commerce around this great nation, there's a federal role in this. Again, working with the states, the locals, to build this infrastructure. So that's part of the message I would encourage you to take to members of my Congress. This is something we're supposed to be doing. I, for one, there's many departments in Washington, D.C. I'll be happy to cut their spending. But when it comes to the security of this nation and the infrastructure needs of this nation, that should be one of our focuses here at the federal government. I also like to remind my colleagues that when Adam Smith wrote the father of capitalism, the free enterprise system, when he wrote in his book, Wealth of Nations, he said government should do 3 things for the people. It should provide them with security, it should preserve justice, and it should erect and maintain infrastructure to promote commerce. So even Adam Smith, the father of this great economy that we know today, he even said that is one of the roles of government. So again, I really appreciate you being here in Washington. I know you're heading up to the Hill today to have meetings, so again, I would encourage you to talk about that message and encourage your folks to get out there into the field with you to see just what needs to be done. And again, talking about the Constitution, and there is a federal role to all this, is extremely important, because I can't move a piece of legislation unless I have folks like you there supporting us and educating not only members of Congress, but of course the folks back at home. And I know there's a big effort by the Chamber to get the counties and the local chambers of commerce together. Again, those are all very, very positive and helpful things for those in Washington trying to move forward a surface transportation bill. So again, appreciate you being here. Sorry the weather wasn't nicer for you here in Washington, but I take no responsibility for the weather unless it's nice. But again, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here with you and get out there today on the Hill and work them hard. Thank you very much.